Bryan Stevenson, author of Just Mercy, which is now a movie, if you're not the book reading type, tells people that what called him into his work was getting proximate. Stevenson works with prisoners who are on death row, work he was introduced to in graduate school. He describes being a student at Harvard and beginning work with a law firm, the Southern Center for Human Rights in Atlanta. His first assignment was to talk with a man on death row, simply informing him that there had been a stay of execution in the case, meaning that this man would not be killed at the date that had been given to him. Stevenson recounts that as he gave this news. What seemed a tiny piece of information, the man had tears in his eyes. He asked for Stevenson to repeat what he had just heard, to make sure his ears weren't deceiving him. Stevenson recounts that this encounter changed him. Prisoners on death row weren't prisoners anymore. Not a faceless mass of criminals, but people. There were stories, names, faces, and whole lives lived before the crime for which they had been convicted. Stevenson says that what changed him was this proximity. Getting proximate seems to be, if not a cure-all, a game-changing thing to do. When we are close to the other, however that otherness manifests, we are changed by the relationship, changed by the encounter. We've all read stories about people changed by friendships they have across lines of race or socioeconomics or geographical borders. The power of an individual story can't be denied when we are up close to it. From this lens, it's no wonder that Jesus chose to hang out with tax collectors and sinners. He got proximate. Our teacher shows us the way we are to live, to hang out with all kinds of folks, but most especially those who are on the margins of society, those who are judged and misunderstood and no good. Jesus eats with them because it's on these margins that the gospel is most alive, and that God is most needed. As Jesus puts it, those who are well have no need of a physician. So how do we do it? How do we get proximate to the heartache of the world? A lot of the time, it's going to mean leaving our church pews. Often those who sit near us in church are somewhat like us. Perhaps they're bound to us by having kids the same age, or by having similar career paths, or by both serving on the vestry. With whom are you not usually in contact with? Who's at the gas station in need of a hot meal, or overwhelmed with childcare on a Sunday morning? Who was out too late last night to wake up in time for service? Who's serving time in the nearest prison? Who doesn't feel like they can grace our doors due to shame or fear? These are the people with whom Jesus calls us into a deeper relationship. From a place of relationship, we are transformed. We are made into the new creation that God wishes for us, changed into something more closely resembling true love. Jesus says that he desires mercy, not sacrifice. We cannot truly understand mercy without sacrificing our judgment, leaving self-righteousness behind in our walk of discipleship. Bryan Stevenson says very simply that each of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. He can say it not because he is delusional about human nature, not because he imagines us to be saints, but because he knows us to be sinners. He has seen the humanity in those whom we have condemned to life behind bars. He has seen himself in those who are called simply criminals. In this morning's gospel, the Pharisee asks the disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" They meant it to be shaming. They meant it to be embarrassing. They meant to say, "Why isn't he hanging out with us, the important people? If he is important, he should be paying mind to us." But Jesus stays true to his calling. He isn't swayed by the self-importance of the Pharisees. He isn't tempted by putting himself above anyone else. He knows that there is little difference between the Pharisees and the tax collectors. The only difference was one of ego. One group knew their need of God, and the other didn't. Jesus says he comes to call not the righteous, but sinners. And that's the good news. That's all of us. Sin isn't confined to those who have broken the law or to those who are different from us. We too are sinners. When we get proximate to those who are different from us, what falls away is judgment, allowing us to see how God is working in their lives and wonder anew about how God might be working in our own. We are invited in the gospel to check our ego at the door, to get close to those about whom we have judgments, to remember that they and we are more than the worst thing we have ever done. Amen. I heard you had a great work day yesterday. Approximately about 12 people came. Do you want to run down what we did?
Well, we cleaned the inside of the sanctuary here, and the entrance, and the lights and things back here, and everything on the altar, not the brass stuff and everything, but the limestone and all. And then we ran the vacuum, and we cleaned in the fellowship hall, cleaned the kitchen, and the outside, it looks really nice, thanks to Troy and Christina and Dave and
Carol.
Lane and Carol, and I mean the courtyard got done all out front, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful day. And I hate to say names. I had a list at home. I know it was 12 people, but I don't want to leave anybody out. So Rebecca, yes, Rebecca was there, and Mike. Mike did the edging around the flower bed out there, and it was a wonderful day. It really was. The weather was perfect. We couldn't have had a better day.
Awesome.
So it was very nice.
Wonderful. And I know today is second Sunday, so any donations you have for Life Pantry needs to go to the WAG. Are there any other announcements?
There's still a couple unclaimed St. John's apparel items back there, and I apologize, I got bad intel. That's obviously not Father Charlie's in. None of us were happy.
Yeah, I heard Father Charlie's supposed to be here today. Message to me, no. Next week, Father Charlie will be here. We are headed to South Carolina for the kids' playoffs for roller derby, so that is where we will be. If you want to keep us in your prayers in general, that would be great. That's one of the reasons Sarah hasn't really moved. She's not feeling the greatest, so she just wanted to give you guys a heads up. She's not trying to be disrespectful, she just doesn't feel good. So, any other announcements?
I called Pat and Dean Hoffman yesterday just to see how they're doing. And Pat had rotator cuff surgery, which took a long time to get things back to normal. And I think she's still in a harness that she doesn't like, but it's not as bad as the harness she had before. Dean's really weak right now, and he's going in for surgery on Tuesday. So keep both in your prayers for that. She sort of described the plumbing work that's going on right there for that surgery, but I don't want to go into it and get it wrong. So.
That's fair.
Well, we run speakerphone, so I can recall too. It's the same problems he's had for a long time now. And basically, I think they tried treating it based on symptoms. And this, she said they're going to open him up and look around and try and figure out.
Do we know when that's scheduled?
Tuesday, right?
Tuesday.
We discovered our Father Martin at home that our first priest. He is going to New Parish in Hot Springs, Arkansas, his last Sunday, July 17th. So they've had him there for 4 years at the two churches. And so I know they're going to miss him. We hadn't decided if we're going to go down there to send him off or not. We did have to do a safe correct note.
Awesome.
I've been down to Arkansas to see my son,
Gotcha.
but I know they appreciate that because I'm sure they're going to start looking for a new priest. priest.
Yeah, we can keep them in their prayers. Transition's never easy, so we'll keep them in our prayers. Yes.
So the last Saturday in June is the Limestone Heritage Parade, and we will be doing our annual concession stand for a part of the parade lineup. More details to come, but what we typically do is prepare broths, hot dogs, drinks, and just hand it out to anybody who wants dinner. I know a lot of folks who are doing that parade lineup really look for us to provide their dinner for that evening, and so it's a fun way for us to really engage with the community. More details to come, and all the proceeds we collect of donations will return to a local charity that the vestry elects. So mark your calendars. It's usually a couple hours before parade, like during parade lineup, so like 3 to 6-ish that Saturday, but more to come on that. And also, if you didn't hear, Bishop Curry is under medical care as well, and has canceled all of his travel. And so, as we are praying for our presiding bishop always, we're especially praying for his health during this time.
If you're interested in seeing a skating priest, I'll be playing double duty for the parade. So I'll be here for the lineup, and then I'll be skating in the parade for our roller derby. So, heads up. Alrighty, any other announcements?
It's just, there's about 10 members of our church that are traveling to Mexico for vacation. Not through service work, but they are traveling today, and they'll be coming back after next Sunday, so.
Okay.
Keep travelers in the
Yes, let's keep them in their prayers. Any birthdays or anniversaries? Awesome. Change the opportunity. Walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself for us, an offering and sacrifice to God.